If you didn't see my last video about my super base Neovim setup, it's basically just a 60-line file, so you should be able to follow along, but that gives more context and background. So last time I left off and there were a few problems that I didn't really address, and I'd like to talk about things today. It'll be a lot of discussion about treesitter and mason and all the benefits and whatnot of that, getting into specifics. But first let's fix a couple of things with the config. So right now you can see that there's all these diagnostic warnings. Oops, I touched the mouse, blasphemy. And yeah, so we don't like that. We want to see those resolved. Now some people just say do local, I don't know, vim equals vim, and then all the warnings are in one place, but that's like slapping a band-aid on a gaping hole in the Hoover Dam. That's not good. We want to get to the root of this. And another problem right now, oh, by the way, the native binding for LSP hover is now Control-WD for some reason. I guess window diagnostic kind of makes sense. And yeah, so you can see it's kind of blending into the background here. It's especially if we go earlier on in the text, if we go, oops, I keep hitting 9. If we go to the beginning and then Control-WD, it's kind of blending in. I don't love that. I'd like to see a nice rounded border. And luckily they added a convenient way to do that, which is vim.op.winborder, I think. And then we can do rounded. And then if we source that with leader O, which I defined last time, and now do Control-WD, boom, that looks way, way better. And same thing with capital K. You can see it'll show the options like that. Cool. And then let's do, oh, actually, this is cool too. You can also do double, I think. Now, if I hover, yeah, I'll get a double thing. I prefer rounded. I think it looks clean. Well, let's try to fix this diagnostic thing. So I found on some random blog, and actually a couple people in the comments told me, you can either disable global warnings, or you can add Vim to your runtime path in Lua LS. And I like the latter just because, I don't know, it feels more correct objectively. So I have this little table, and the way that I'm gonna fix this is with the new API vim.lsp.config, and then you pass in the name of the server you want to configure. So we do Lua LS, and then you pass in the table. And let's actually go down here and grab this. So we can go GC around block, or B, to get that out of there. And then let's dab to delete around block. Actually, we don't even need to do that because we can just go down and put a parenthesis on the end. And that should be good to go. If we hit a language format, we're all set there. And is there anything wrong with this? It's a little weird. Oh, I know. Up here, I'd like to just join like that. That looks a little better in my opinion. So now if we restart, Control-O to jump back, we should hopefully see that the errors are resolved once my LSP starts up. There we go. Okay, and then vim dot, and to trigger completion for LSP, we can do Control-X, Control-O, oops, Control-XO, and then you can see we've got all of our fields here. So that's looking great. Native out of the box, no blink or anything. So there's totally an argument to using blink because the default configuration for completion is kind of ass, like the omni-complete and all of that. But I'm doing this thing right now where I'm trying just not using completion really, and I want manual completion triggering. That way I feel like it'll just help me memorize all the functions of a language better and help me memorize the APIs better. That could just be a really stupid thing to do, but I'm trying it out. It's pretty easy to install Blink. If go look at TJ DeVries' channel, he has tutorials on that if you want better completion. Alright, so as I promised in the thumbnail, how are we going to get rid of all of our LSP plugins? Well, we've only got 2 currently. LSP config and Mason. Now LSP config is just a bunch of predefined configurations for our servers, right? But the thing is, I kind of just want to remove that plugin for the sake of the minimalism meme, and that's pretty easy to do. So if I pull up the help for nvim lsp, wait, maybe it's just lsp config, yeah. And then what we can do is leader E to explore with oil, and then go up a couple directories, and you can see right here we've got the LSP directory. So I'm just going to yank that YY, and then quit out of this with ZQ, and then I'm going to open up what's it called? Oil. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. And then paste it in here. That might be like kind of a noob way to move them around, but now we've got all the LSP configurations for every language server stored locally. And there's 300 of them. You might think this is kind of cursed, but we're only gonna load them if we use this vim.lsp.enable. So there's only 4 of them being loaded. That's just a bunch of Lua files on disk. That's like one node module. It's completely fine to store that whole thing there. They're all like 20 to 30 lines, I don't know. And now we have basically nvim lsp config, which is itself just a data-only repository, so we can delete this from our configuration. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want all of the configs on disk saved, and I want to be able to kind of manually tweak them. And you can see what I mean here. So we've got this like little thing going on with the settings. If we actually select inside v inside block and then just delete that, now I can find Lua ls in my in my LSP directory, and I can go down here and see that it's basically just returning a table very similar. And then I can paste in, I want to paste down below actually. I can paste in my settings right there, and now I don't have to define them in my main file. So this is really great because you can kind of just localize all your LSP config tweaks across the different things. And whenever you need one, the configuration is already just pre-installed for you. And this is just, I find, like more convenient, better than using nvim lsp config in its normal like package manager install way, because otherwise you're kind of like tweaking through their interface, which is just weirder than using the native one now. And yeah, we can completely remove that line and we should be exactly the same. And another thing with this is some people might say, well, okay, like that's all well and good, but what if there's ever like an update to an LSP server? In my case, that hasn't really happened because, first of all, like they kind of don't like breaking changes anyway in the nvim lsp config repo. Like if you've ever tried to contribute to that, they're very strict, and they like once you've submitted the configuration, they really do not want you to change it. I know that because I was like working with the TinyMist guys for a little bit on the Typst LSP, and yeah, they do not like that. So not a huge thing. I think once in a while you'll get like a new LSP server, but if it's super new, it's pretty easy to just copy and install yourself. It's just put the file name in that directory and return the table. So now we've just got this LSP and our init.lua. Pretty nice. Now there is Mason. So there's kind of a raging debate around Mason. Use it or don't use it. And half the people are like, use your system package manager to install these LSP servers. And that has a few different advantages. And the big ones are that you can have multiple versions. And if you're working on like a project, or you just work on a language that there are multiple versions of an LSP you need, then totally do that. But for me, Mason is just super convenient because it's just like a nice interface to install the LSP servers. And you know, they all have like weird names, and whenever I want to install a new one, like I don't want to have to hunt down the random GitHub pages and install instructions and get it. So that's why I'm still using Mason personally, and I don't need multiple versions really. There are like 5 or 6 LSP servers I need, but once in a while, like there's some weird one you kind of want, like I don't know, the GLSL server, or yeah, just some strange LSP server because you're just trying out a new language and you want to quickly get it. So I still kind of like Mason. If you don't know, it's, well, you probably know watching this video, but ooh, that's nice. Our border is actually applied to this pop-up window. I really like that. And yeah, you just kind of find, so if we want to install like Rust Analyzer, where is it? Yeah, you just hit I, lowercase I, and then it installs for you. And yeah, it's just like basically a built-in package manager. So I kind of cheated, right, if I'm saying in the thumbnail, which I don't know if I am yet, like no plugin LSP setup, but I don't really consider Mason like Mason could totally be an external application, you know, it just happens to be within my editor. There's nothing that's going on, there's no like Mason LSP config plugin nonsense anymore. But yeah, I think that makes things quite a bit better in terms of cleanliness. We've just got our own directory now for configuring all our LSP servers, looking pretty minimal. Total 55 line config I guess several thousand if you count all the LSP configs, but come on, be reasonable. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Next up is treesitter. So some people hate treesitter and they think it's all like just hype. Something's falling apart over there. And basically like their argument is that Vim already has highlight groups and it's just all like defined using regex and stuff. And I kind of agree in a sense because that is very fast and it is quite nice just out of the box. The highlighting in Vim is pretty good. And like sometimes it takes a second for your treesitter to start. And there's also like semantic token highlighting through your LSP, but you have to wait for your LSP to start, and nah, that sucks. So the reason I'm still using treesitter is because for certain complex applications, mostly Svelte, where you've got multi-tag system, if you don't know, Svelte has like, it's kind of like Vue in that it has like all your markup and scripts for web development in one file. So you've kind of got multiple parsers going on at a certain level, and trying to do that with native like Vim syntax highlighting, it kind of gets things wrong now and then. So I just prefer treesitter for that. I don't use any of the treesitter features for like text object navigation just because I want to keep my movements vanilla. Call me crazy, but yeah. And then also, and yeah, installing that is pretty simple now. We have like native integration for it. So all you really have to do is use this, I guess this isn't quite native, but nvim treesitter.configs. You can see I've got it in vim.pack.add, the native package manager now in version 12. And then I'm pretty much just requiring it with config setup. And then I have this ensure installed, and that just, it works for me. Everything works. But yeah, that's pretty much why I use treesitter over the older syntax highlighting, which to be honest is perfectly fine. And if you're just using treesitter to get highlighting, like it is a little bit overkill. It's like bringing a chainsaw to a spoon fight or whatever, but I get the text object and appeal and all of that. But yeah, the default highlighting for me on Svelte is a little subpar, and sometimes in other like complicated file scenarios. But if I'm SSHing and it's just the default highlighting, it's really not a big deal at all. It's pretty much fine most of the time. I just like to have it for the experience of it. So that's the argument there with treesitter. You have to enable highlighting like that, and this ensure installed. Someone created an issue also on my GitHub that was like, the syntax should actually just be .install, but that doesn't work for me. So this is currently what's working for me. Let's see, are there any other things? I guess I changed my tab stop and shift width to 2 just because that's a lot more sane. Other than that, that's pretty much all I've added since. I'm currently trying to find a great setup for snippets. Lua snip has been a little dicey in the install with this new package manager, so kind of looking at other options, but also all my things are built for Lua snip, and yeah. Also, a couple of binds that are really nice is leader S for split, or for switching to alternate file, which you can do default with control caret, but it's just easier for me. And then I have split find with leader capital S, so that way I can have multiple views open at the same time. So I also want Typst support working, and here's another great example of tweaking LSP configs. So if we open up TinyMist, you can see this is kind of a monster of a configuration file. Straight up, this LSP setup is longer than my entire config. And you can see right here all the capabilities of TinyMist. And if we actually open up a type file, we're currently having a couple of issues. So I can't format, there's no matching language servers, and that's because of this issue with TinyMist out of the box where they changed from one formatter to another, and they were never really able to update that in LSP config, because I mentioned earlier they're kind of strict about that, so you have to manually update that, which is super annoying, but it's a lot easier now. And then another thing is, yeah, there's kind of an annoying issue where they named these pretty badly. To export markdown PDFs, PNGs, whatever, it's LSP TinyMist export. It should just be TinyMist export, or honestly just plain export. Like, you don't need to say LSP before that. But we can pretty easily fix this, so Control O to jump back. Let's look how they defined these commands. So basically they've got a table of all the capabilities of the server, it looks like, and then they've got this create TinyMist command function. So if we go up to the top, and it looks like right here is where it's defined. And just looking down here, it looks like they're setting things up. Here we go. Here's the LSP TinyMist export. So I actually want this to be just export, and that's a lot more succinct. And then also right here where it says LSP, let's just say TinyMist. So now our commands will be quite a bit shorter, which is really nice. But we also have to fix our formatter. So I think the way you do that is, if I remember correctly from when I wrote the docs for TinyMist install like a long time ago, it's settings and then formatter mode equals type style. I think that's the correct key, but let's check with restart and then open up new.type. And then if we format, not getting any errors, that's a promising sign. So LF, perfect, that works great. And let's check our commands. TinyMist, get document metrics, beautiful. And if we could also do export, yeah, export markdown, export PNG. Let's export an XVG. Okay, boom. And then we could even, I'm not gonna try to open that, I don't know where it went. Okay, cool. That's about it for this one. I'm gonna keep updating this. It's gonna get more based every time. I might turn it into a little series. Maybe I'll switch to Vim script eventually, because this is kind of getting ridiculous with all the Lua APIs, but I don't know. I might even switch to Cocoon, you never know. But yeah, more realistically, before I get to that point, it's gonna be a smaller step, like super based snippets or something like that. But thanks for watching, I'll catch you next time.